Live from the bowels of Bristol, Tennessee. Your favorite podcast, Rumble. Not Facebook, though. Not favorite on Facebook.
Not favorite on Facebook. We're on Facebook right now. But
You'd never know it because they keep us. They keep us as quiet as they possibly can. We're like little mice over here on Facebook. So if you're listening on Facebook, click share, like and share, or comment about it or something, because it's not that we're in jail. I don't think we're in jail. I just think they hate us.
Yeah. Anybody that's making content like we are,
Yeah.
and in an election year, I mean, you know, YouTube, Facebook, all of them. The safest place is Rumble. Just go to Rumble.
The election year. Can we just? I know we've got an agenda tonight,
Right.
and I'm on it. But did you hear that the courts interviewed the Secret Service about taking him to prison?
Yes. Okay.
This is not on our
No,
stuff,
it's not.
But
if he goes to prison, so it tells you that the jury has already asked today. I was reading about it that they asked for the what's his name? Is it David Pecker? I believe is his name. So they asked for his testimony. They asked for oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. They asked for several people's
it's
testimony.
okay. I'm blank too.
At the end of the day, if he goes to jail, he wins.
Oh,
If he doesn't go to jail, he's still going to win. But I mean,
it's the amount. It's the landslide that happens.
Now, it's probably preliminary. They're just saying, all right, there's a good chance or there's a possibility. So we need to plan for those contingencies because of the resources we're going to have to.
Oh, could you imagine? I mean, could you imagine him?
You thought that his mugshot went viral. Him in an orange jumpsuit.
Oh, buddy, with chains.
It
would be on everything.
He's going to be talking to his Secret Service like, hey, Bill, get your cell phone, take a picture.
Yeah.
He's going to be slung back.
It's on every billboard ever. You know, like I guess I'm like a pseudo English Trump. That was terrible.
I can't do a Trump. I really want to learn to do a Trump.
I do too. Because it is one of the most fascinating. You know, it's great. It's great, as he would put it.
Yeah,
it's the best ever.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's fabulous. So, yeah. Fun times we're living in. So. Tonight we've just got a really interesting show. One that I think, you know, it's funny because this stuff raises its head, and it is I don't want to say flavor of the week, but we are a shiny lights society, right? We are so temporary.
The jingling keys distract us sometimes.
The ADHD
right.
in our media, in our world is insane. It's insane. But so we've had this deluge of information come out about extraterrestrial life and what that looks like. And it comes out that there are unknown craft, that there are, you know, all these different things. And then nobody was shocked. It didn't change the world like it would have 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It's barely a headline. And yet, I think, and I want to say this, that I think that it had to come out at this time because it wasn't a panic. It didn't create a panic. It didn't create a headline. It didn't create momentum. And I think that was intentional. And I think it's been orchestrated to come out at this time by principalities and powers.
Yeah.
So that it's subtle. It's just subtle. It's just enough.
Yeah. And it was dripped. Like all the pilots see and everything. And everybody's, I don't know. I don't really know what this is, but let's be honest. These are things that are far out of the ordinary.
Oh.
And so explaining that sort of thing becomes incredibly difficult because if it's, as a lot of people like to say, this is extraterrestrial, it comes from another planet, or how would we know, right?
Right.
How would we know? And so, yeah, like we were going to talk about tonight, there's a lot of deception behind it. And you can't explain that as being a Chinese technology. You can't explain it as being U.S. technology, I don't think. I mean, there's a possibility. We had the technology for the CDs in what, the 70s, I think?
Yeah.
So we could be further along, like advanced further along than we think. However, Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, touching on that, even the holographic technology, right,
Yeah.
that existed. I saw a thing 2 weeks ago where a guy was talking about the holograms that they were able to project in the 90s
Right.
would blow your mind.
Yeah.
And so now we're at a place where, I mean, you've seen it, where the whale is in the middle of the air, and
Oh, it's crazy. With the
crazy.
big dome that they have out in Vegas and
it's-
what they're able to
yeah.
project on that. I mean, it's ludicrous. And technology's moving faster. AI is pushing that along, I think.
Oh man, did you
know?
see the Glenn Beck thing that
No, I didn't see that one. I saw the last one you sent me.
it is dangerous. I mean, it needs to be shut down or it's going to take over.
That AI does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean,
but tonight we're going to start by touching on this. There was a post with Joe Rogan, and I don't remember this guy's name. Do you?
yeah, it is Bert Sibrel.
Sibrel.
Sibrel. Yeah, Bert Sibrel. The whole podcast, by the way, is pretty interesting. He's a big time, I guess you would call him a moon landing skeptic, and so he's labeled. Wikipedia says he's just a conspiracy theorist. Yada yada yada.
Aren't we all?
But this guy, yeah. Well, I was going to say that in this era, I feel like conspiracy theorist is just well researched because
Yeah, or just knowledgeable or normal.
Yeah. Okay, tell
Normal.
me about how many conspiracy theories we've had that have become true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one right
You know
after
what?
the other.
You know what I've noticed too is more and more on my feed are middle-aged women,
Yeah.
moms,
Yeah.
who are like, "You call me a conspiracy theorist, but
Right,
it's like
right.
there's more and more of this out there where it's like, yeah, this think tank is pretty big.
Yeah.
It's sitting back going like, this something's fishy here.
Yeah.
How's a boat?
Oh.
How's a boat hit a bridge?
It is a good thing that people are becoming more skeptical, though.
Right.
We had we've talked about it on this podcast before, a healthy fear of the government, what the government is doing behind closed doors, what they aren't telling us about, because we only see a fraction of it. I mean, I was low level when I was in the military, but you get certain clearances and you see things and you're like, whoa, but I was a nobody in that world. Like there's people
You weren't a nobody.
echelons above, but echelons above me,
Yeah.
that had access. I can only imagine what they had access to.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just we have to have that healthy skepticism, and it's coming back. It's making a resurgence. Donald Trump has had something to do with that, and I just think our political environment has had something to do with that.
I think you're right. I think politics have played a big part in it. I also think that the church has played a part in it in some regard. Now, I'm not going to talk about the church. Most pastors that are I gotta be careful how I say this, weak.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
because and their elders are weak. You don't run people off. We need their money. We need their whatever.
Yeah,
So they water it down, make it easy to digest. They make it all. It's like a motivational Jesus plus motivational speech type
Yeah.
of thing, where you've got a handful of guys that are out there who are unabashedly ashamed of the true gospel of Christ,
yeah,
and they're coming at it from the notion of like, okay, Jesus said, don't be deceived, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we say that almost every week on this podcast. Don't be deceived. This deception is so big and so rooted in evil, and it's taken decades to it's actually taken millennia to really get to the place where we are now, because we're coming to the precipice, I believe, of the return of Christ. And it's been ramping itself up all along. Those hieroglyphs that you saw of, otherworldly things, right? Intentional, because Satan knew this was his plan all along, right? And so we've gotten to a place now where whether this stuff exists or not, we can project it that it does, and the world will fall for it, right? I mean, you've got people lining up to take vaccines for West Nile, for you're just
Oh, it's
you're
yeah,
falling for
going
it.
nuts. Yeah.
It's nuts. And so here we are, where whatever the Kool-Aid, whatever the flavor is, people are going to drink it. And that's the big deception. we've been since the beginning, since there was a rift and God put enmity between the seed of Satan and the seed of Christ, his seed. The devil has been deceiving all along, right? This is part of the greatest deception the world will ever know. And I believe this is part of the end times deception. So let's go ahead and roll this so you can listen.
Real and aliens are real, but they're not from outer space. And that's according to the top 2 UFO researchers after decades-long research. So go to Sibrel.com and
So where do they
it's
think
up
they're
there in
from?
time.
If they're not from outer space.
They're interdimensional and potentially fallen angels disguising themselves because they're liars of something, like you said, can't be proven or disproven. I'm from this galaxy 300 light years away.
This is kind of what Tucker Carlson thinks. He thinks there's a spiritual element to it, and he thinks they've always been here, and he thinks that this is what's kind of documented in the Bible as like good and evil. And
that's it, exactly. I mean, that's what's going on. I mean, the top 2 UFO researchers said UFOs are real, number 1. Number 2, they're not from outer space. And number 3, they're demonic. And that's what I talk about. Where it talks about fallen angels interbreeding with humans, it's talked about in Genesis 6, and creating a race called Nephilim, who were men of renown, world leaders.
There you go.
There you go.
I mean, I don't think that's wrong. I think that that's it's the perfect mix. If it's something that presents itself as an extraterrestrial, and they say I'm from 300, we have, like he was saying, we have no way to disprove something like that. But it is the perfect mix. If you want to talk about a deception of scaring people away from God, from Christ, is that this is a perfect mix of science, because we're talking about outer space, we're talking about the universe, we're talking about technology, ridiculous technologies that we can't comprehend. A perfect mix of science and things of this world.
Yeah.
And when people see that, they're automatically, like you were saying, those seeds have been planted over since the Roswell and all of those things back in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Those seeds have been planted all along by a scientific elite who have told us that this is what we should be looking for. And when that happens, the deception is incredibly simple. It's very, very easy, especially for a people who have moved away from, core biblical beliefs. If you'd asked somebody 100 years ago, if aliens had shown up then, they would say, this is demonic, this is evil, because you had the vast majority of people in church and
well,
and all
yeah,
that.
A, B, this doesn't exist.
Right,
There's
this
no
doesn't
possible way. This can't be from this world. This
Right.
can't be, and if it's not from this world, it's got to be from the other world.
Yeah.
And so, but here we are in our modern day where it's like, oh, we could, they can do this, they can do that, they can, who knows what secrets the government has, no, they don't have that kind of secret. And I want to talk about this a little bit because, what he touches on here, Tucker believes it, which I love Tucker. I do.
Yeah.
This fallen angel idea, okay? People oftentimes, and in the church especially, the learned people in the church, which are I'm going to equate theologians and learned people to scientists in the world, right? Mm-hmm. They know what they know, and they base it off of what they've read. And generally speaking, most theologians come up with their theology on what somebody else has written.
Right.
Okay, so it's not even theirs. They just regurgitate who they pick and choose to believe. Okay, and for this, for example, people have posted on this about how be careful. This could be heretical. Angels can't take on any other form. And my question to you is, just like people that. Be careful not to put the enemy in a box.
Exactly.
Just like you've put God in a box, right?
He came as a serpent.
He was a serpent, right?
Yeah.
So
he can take what form he wants.
Well,
to a certain degree.
But can he though? I mean, and that was Satan, not the demons. And this is their argument, right? This is all their argument. And I sit back and go, okay, I get where you're coming from, but do you think, and this is just you and I,
yeah,
okay, Do you think that God can do things outside of what's written in the Word?
Yeah.
Okay. I do too.
Yeah.
I don't believe that the Word is the beginning and the end of God's ability and what he wants to do. I think
Right.
God can do whatever God wants to do.
I mean, it pretty much, I feel like it pretty accurately encompasses what he can do, because he said, he created the stars in the heavens, and next thing you know, you have what we
it's
understand to
pretty
be
much infinite, right?
billions and trillions of light years.
Right. It's pretty much an infinite amount of doing.
Yeah, that
Okay.
that in and of itself sets it up as
So,
infinite.
but when people say, well, God never worked that way before.
Yeah,
Well, okay, God talked out of a donkey one time in Scripture, right? So he can do whatever he wants to do. Anything he wants to do I would never limit God to working the way it says in Scripture that he has to work. It doesn't say he has to work. It's examples of how he worked. Okay. I do believe, because the word says he is the same today, yesterday, and forever, right? That if he did it back then, he can do it today. And there are people called the cessationalists who say, well, no, that was just back then. Well, if God is timeless, his abilities are timeless, then why would all that stop, right?
yeah. Oh, you're talking about miracles and
miracles and all
kinds
that.
of miraculous things. Now, hey, well, yeah, I've got a video clip that I didn't send to you of a guy who gave his experience, like he died, but he didn't go to heaven; he went to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Gave a description of that one, but he can do miraculous things.
Yeah. And the enemy in converse, right? The enemy, Satan, is also capable of doing miraculous things. Okay? We don't want to think of it this way. We don't want to, because it's like, okay,
Wouldn't you say he's doing magical things?
yes.
Not necessarily
Magical is a better word than
that
miraculous.
appears miraculous. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he can turn a stick into a serpent. He
Yeah.
can, there's things that he can do. And he's not a miracle worker, because usually miracles are good, right? But he is a magic worker. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
So is it beyond his reach to take a form that is not human, but that we could identify with? Does he take form?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could say that if the sightings that people have had, the depictions people have had of aliens, if they are accurate, then this isn't a non-human entity. This is very similar in appearance. In fact, for the thumbnail, I made one that was, I just used AI, and I said, give me a photo of an alien. And this is what it came up with. And so if, does that look human? Or, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Why
Like,
is
it wouldn't,
it?
that's a parlor trick for him to take a form like that, right?
And why is it that they all have a serpentine look to them,
Yeah.
right?
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, even AI picks up on it, right?
Yeah, they all have a serpentine look.
Every one of them.
There you go.
And part of that is because, oh man, here we go, deep dives. Here we go. So the Smithsonian Institute
Yeah.
has been, almost since its founding, in the process of proactively burying and destroying any evidence of the fallen angels. There are multiple skulls that exist of the giants of old, the half man, half angel,
Right.
the
A lot of
men
people still searching for those too.
the men of renown,
Yeah.
so to speak. Their skulls are elongated, so they have a really deep, long cranium. Their eyes are just a little bit offset of ours, almost serpentine.
Yeah.
And so there's this. They've buried them. I mean, you can find them if you go back into the 20s and papers. You can find giants on microfilm. You can find all the things.
Graham Hancock has seen evidence of it in some of the ancient writings that he's found on buildings as he's doing all of his archaeological research. You know who Graham Hancock is?
Yeah.
And so I think it was Graham Hancock that I started watching his series, which by the way is awesome.
Which one? It's the Ancient Apocalypse. Is that the series?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's good.
Fascinating.
It's very good.
It's fascinating.
And you can tell. I wonder. There's a part of me that goes, I think he's a believer. I don't know how he can't be when he's seeing the evidence that he's seeing and calling it to question, right? That
Because it comes down to whether you're a new world or an old world type
True.
Christian, and so he's definitely would fall into the old world category.
True.
And the one thing that is consistent in all of his research is a flood. This
Yep.
is
Oh, through all civilizations, they all have the same,
Yep.
flood happened.
His book, Fingerprint, I think it was his book, Fingerprints of the Gods. I read that one years ago, and I don't remember a whole lot of it, but it laid out that, hey, this is one common thing across all civilizations, all these ancient civilizations, was that there was a flood. And then one of his partners, who's been doing some pretty interesting archaeological work, and I'll forget the guy's name because this was definitely off schedule or off program.
Yeah, totally.
But
Graham
he was-
Hancock.
Yeah.
Prince of the Gods.
He was on, his partner and Graham were both on Joe Rogan show. And they were talking about these massive wave. Basically, it looked like the ripples you see in sand on the beach, only you had to be 30,000 feet to see these things. They're massive. And he said the only thing that can cause this is a huge,
Wave
wave type
across
event.
the world, over
yeah.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that series, Ancient Apocalypse, it is
interesting,
fascinating.
yeah.
It's eye opening. I mean, there's things you go,
Right.
But it is fascinating. It's something that makes you think a little bit. And the other one is Billy Crone has had. He's a pastor.
Crone.
He's out in Las Vegas. Has had some phenomenal teachings on the days of Noah and you ever go out to Arizona and stuff and you see what should be mountains,
Yeah.
but it's just flat on top. It's like a cliff and then flat. Everything's flat. It's perfectly flat. And the only thing that can cause that is a shear. And the only thing that could possibly cause that kind of shear is a massive amount of water.
Right.
And so,
I was talking to a guy today, actually, and we were discussing, aliens and all that kind of stuff. We wound up getting in a conversation about it. And we were talking about the Nephilim and all that kind of stuff. And his thought was, or something he had read, was that the Nephilim were part of why God created the flood, because of the perversion of the Nephilim, the angels and humans, joining as one. I got to watch what I say, I guess.
you do.
Don't want to get booted.
No.
But for them, kind of coming together, and that was part of the debauchery that led to the flood. And then, of course, that begs the question, okay, if it is Nephilim, then in the flood, wiped out la-di-da-di everybody except for Noah and his family. How did they get reintroduced? And that's kind of the question. But I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but it's...
Well, there's a teaching, and I believe this is true, that there was almost like a second falling out, a second, before man was here, what was here?
Before man?
Yeah.
I mean, all the creatures and
Yeah, so God creates the heavens and the earth, right?
Yeah.
And here's a great example. Adam and Eve were commissioned to go and subdue the earth. Okay? Well, inside the garden, there was nothing to subdue. It was outside the garden that they had to subdue things. So there's a concept that the fallen angels were there. And yes, the flood came and wiped them out. And they came again. And so, because it says that there were giants in the land in those days of Noah and in the days after. Well, if, people like, well, one of them hung onto the boat. One of them, they were giants, so they stood on top of the mountain and held their breath, no.
They're real good at treading water.
It happened again. If you read and look into the Epic of Gilgamesh, I wish Dr. Briscoe was here.
Yeah, I know. He'd probably talk circles around us on this one.
He would be all up in this. But if you read these things in the ancient Assyrian texts, okay, some of the first written things, these beings were teaching humanity about interbreeding of species, about, like the concept of dragons, This is fascinating. Why do all cultures have dragons?
Because dragons were a thing.
Because dragons were real.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's
a
just
fairy
in
tale.
Shrek.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
No, dragons were real. Because they were experimenting with birds mating with cattle successfully. They were experimenting. They were showing people how to do this. And God doesn't like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we're doing right now. If you want to be honest with me,
Well, hello.
or if I'm going to be honest with you,
Yeah. Hello.
playing God when we are trying to do our own thing. I think about
Manipulate DNA structures.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, it's this, like, in Russia, there's a place where pure seeds exist of corn. Because right now you can't seem to find that anymore. Right? I want a potato. No, you get a half potato, half whatever.
Right.
So we have been tampering with God's creation to a point now. I mean, the aluminum on Mount Everest from cloud seeding.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like
changing weather, the floods that happened in Saudi Arabia.
We are messing with perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And God does not take kindly to that.
Well, and human beings. I mean, you talk about the
that's
transhumanism movement. You talk about transgender.
That's
stuff.
a whole nother thing. Did you get
I'm gonna start calling them transformers so that I don't get us kicked off of.
Did you get the thing I sent you, the guy who had the first neural implant?
Yes, I've got that one. Let me pull that one up. Oh, that was wild. This is wild. Everybody's gonna really love this one.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and okay, let me pull this up here real quick.
So Cuomo's not my favorite, but he's much better now than he was.
Yeah. Oh boy, I could go on a whole tirade about him. He's taking ivermectin. Was taking ivermectin when he was slamming Joe Rogan,
telling people not to.
Such a hypocrite. Yeah, I'm so mad at Patrick Bet-David for hiring this guy.
The fact that he is the zebra who changes his stripes.
Yeah.
He is the flavor of the week.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm going to say this because this is important. He's the flavor of the week, but look who he seems to be batting for now.
Yeah. I think he's just a grifter.
I do too. But it's whatever
it's
whatever's popular, whatever he sees is getting ratings, whatever he sees. And so here he is on a conservative-ish, go ahead and play it.
Okay. Show us that as a demonstration of what you can now do.
Here we go. This is the Link app. This is how I control everything. This is the app that they've uploaded onto my computer that lets me control the cursor. This is my devotional that I've been reading all the time,
for you, buddy.
Every day. And then this is me playing chess.
So wait a minute. You're moving the cursor. You're moving the cursor, Nolan, just by thinking about where you want it to go, or is it your eyes?
No, it's just me thinking about wherever I want it to go.
That's so crazy.
Oh, man. So you're not even tracing it with your eyes. You're just looking at it.
Nope. I can move it, and I can move the cursor around, whatever I would like to do. I don't have to be staring at it at all. I mean, it's amazing. There's not even words to describe. Yeah, there's not even words to describe how amazing this tech is.
Oh boy.
It's insane. It's insane.
Well, cyborgs, I'm calling it, man. We're already cyborgs to a certain degree because we walk around with these things. Yeah. We can't do anything without them.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that Apple, all of them, they're going to put chips in the earbuds now.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I've got that video.
Do you really?
Yeah.
We are batting 1,000.
We are batting 1,000, man. Okay, let me pull this up. Everybody be patient with me for just 1 second here. All right, here we go. Let's unmute.
Devices. So these are brain sensors that are starting to be embedded in everyday devices, but until now have been a number of niche companies that really have focused on mindfulness and meditation. The use of, for example, brain sensors that can pick up electrical activity in the brain at a pretty low resolution, but advances in AI have both improved what the signal is that can come from the brain and enabled the miniaturization of those products. As a lot lot of the major tech companies start to invest in these brain sensors, it's a huge, I think, untapped market in many ways of integrating them into everyday devices. These are earbuds or watches or headphones and the soft cups around the ears. Many of those products are hitting the market this year, and others are hitting them within the next 2 years, such that people can listen to music, a phone call, etc., while having those devices in ears.
Probably unknowingly.
Initially, what they will be.
Okay.
Yeah. Totally unknowingly. You're not going to be
You're
buying
not
a
gonna
pair
know.
of AirPods that say, equipped with brain scanning
you.
technology.
5 years. In 5 years, the video, I think I might even have it. The guy that talked about them transferring the consciousness of a monkey into a DNA hard drive. So this DNA hard drive has petabytes of data capable of storing a human's consciousness. They did it to a monkey already. He says they've already done it to soldiers. And I need to find that video, but I might not have saved that one. Either way, being able to transfer the consciousness, now you've got the brain interaction with machine, all that's cyborgs in the next 5 years. You'll have somebody walking around with a skin suit on, and it's going to be some Boston Dynamics robot that's got somebody else's consciousness in it.
But it's totally human. As in...
Well, that's the question.
Right.
So now, okay, you've got the consciousness of a human being, of a person. You do something bad because you can now smash a car, without breaking your hand.
Right. You get angry like my 10-year-old.
Yeah. How do you punish that?
Yeah.
It's a machine. I mean, what do they just unplug you? Do they?
I tell you what, it's going to take a big spatula to make that hurt when you spank them. What do you do?
Yeah.
And
when there's no pain, there's no consequence.
Right.
The
natural consequence is gone. I mean, there's no pain. There's no. So yeah, it's just a fascinating time to be alive, and I believe it's because we're at the end.
Yeah,
we're blessed, and a lot of people don't look at it this way. They look at it the opposite, like, oh, this is awful. Look at what's happening to our economy. Look at what's happening to look at what's happening to the Chinese economy right now.
Yeah,
they're a disaster.
Oh yeah.
Which
technically everybody's economy is a disaster. I think this is part of the World Economic Forum. This is part of the Bilderbergs, the big, all the big entities that are saying we have to crush everybody. We can't have a safe haven. If there's a safe haven, people can rise up and take the mantle.
If there's a safe haven, there can't be a one world government.
Right.
Therefore, it all has to fall like a house of cards so that somebody, i.e. the Antichrist, right, can pick up the pieces.
Well, and it's easiest to make America fall, or it's more effective to make America fall, because when America falls, you take down countless other countries.
It's dominoes.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't, when America falls, there isn't a country that's not going to be affected.
Right. When we have, just look at money. When we have inflation, everybody else has, or not everybody else, a lot of other people have famine.
Right.
When you devalue and destabilize the dollar of some small African country, then you have famine, and it's easy. And now, if you were to collapse the U.S. dollar, collapse the U.S. economy, you're going to affect not just America. You're going to affect China and Europe, and all over
Russia. You're affecting everybody, even though there's all kinds of we've got Russia. There's tariffs, and they're paying a heavy penalty.
Do you ever think though that it could what we envision as bad? So I actually spoke at my dad's church. I've only spoken in front of a church one other time.
Yeah. How'd you do? Was it nerve-wracking? Were you a little bit like...
Yeah, I was a little bit nervous at first, but I was pretty rehearsed on what I was going to say. And I was talking about being refined under pressure and why does God refine us under pressure? And so I referenced Malachi, where he talked about being the smelter of gold and silver. And I explained, when you smelt gold and silver, it becomes more pure the more you heat it down. And then that slag appears on top, you scrape it off. And the more you do this over time, it becomes more and more pure until you have this,
Yeah, the refiner's fire.
Right, refiner's fire.
Yeah.
And so I led all the way up to, I'm skipping over most of it, but when Matthew, when they were talking about the end times and they were explaining it, I was like, this is going to be rough. And we have to be prepared. We are refining ourselves. And even if it's not us that's going to experience the end times, it could be our kids, or it could be our grandkids, or whatever. But these are biblical principles and understanding that you have to be tough to be a Christian, that you're going to be persecuted. That's just part of it. And that we are preparing for these last days. And we hope, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. We don't live our life in fear that it's not going to happen or that it's going to happen or in
celebration
that's going to happen.
Isn't that funny? It seems like there's one of two. That's it. People are afraid of it, or people are loving it.
Yeah,
it's
just a thing. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah,
prepare your soul, and prepare for it. But you can't live because some people are going to be, am I doing the right thing? Am I, they're terrified of it. But either way, I say that to say that it's the I just had I completely lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No.
I do that.
That the way we envision it, we see the things going on around us, and it's happened throughout history, that this is the end times. This is the end times. Do you think that it's going to get so much worse? This is kind of what I believe. Like, I think it could happen in my lifetime, and I think it could happen fairly soon. But I also think that my perception of really, really bad, end times bad, is far more than even I can comprehend. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And that we could be so far away, not so far away from that. We could be much further away from that than we think.
People are going to beg for death and not be able to die.
Yeah.
In the end, that's how bad it's going to be. Ooh. And when you think about that, I mean, the will to survive, the will to live, causes people who get pinned between a rock and a cliff to cut their own leg off with a pocket knife, right? Like did you see that movie?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, the drive to survive, to stay alive, is huge. It's going to be so bad that people are going to beg for death and not be. So when you consider that, you go, that's going to be bad. That's going to be really bad.
It's going to be rough.
And I believe, going back to the first clip that we had, I believe that this whole thing, this whole narrative of, these supreme beings, and they are supreme beings in a sense that they can go faster, farther, jam radars, do all the things that we can't fathom how they're doing this, right? Because they're not from our dimension. It's physically impossible to do the things that we've seen the Tic Tac do, right? And pilots and naval aviation experts and everybody else that just sit back and go like,
how were you flying Mach 10 and you turn on a dime? And
it's impossible.
Yeah, it's not possible.
Yeah. And then disappear underwater. Yeah. Like what just happened there? Like, so all the things that we're seeing happening, it's not of this world. And if it's not of this world, where's it from? Right? Well, it's from outer space. Okay, no. It's not.
Just because you saw Independence Day doesn't mean that's how it's going to actually.
Right. Just because you grew up on the X-Files.
Right. You're
So, which I loved that show so much.
I never watched it.
Oh, you should.
I feel I probably saw an episode somewhere along the way, but I never got into it.
That is a weekend with the flu.
Yeah.
You binge watch Scully and Mulder. Fascinating show.
Yeah. I've never got into it.
But at any rate, these things are not from our dimension.
Yep.
And so there's a gentleman named L.A. Marzulli who says that if you have an encounter with one of these, because more and more you're seeing and hearing about people having encounters with extraterrestrial beings, right? I mean, you saw the video, which is a global phenomenon about the police dash cam or the officer wearing the camera where they see this looks like a shooting star. They get a 911 call. Hey, this thing just crashed in my backyard, and there's two things that are out.
I saw that one.
So people are having encounters with these things. If any of that ever happens to you, rebuke it in the name of Jesus. Ask questions later.
Solid philosophy,
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because these things are not of our world. And, to those that go, you're right, they're from Mars. No, they're not from our world. They're not from Mars. They're not from our galaxy. These are interdimensional things.
Yeah.
And what it is Satan masquerading as an angel of light, just like the word says that he is.
Yeah. Or just deciding to present himself as something that will more closely align, like we were talking about at the beginning, with science, conspiracy theory, non-religious things.
It's all woven. It's woven together.
Because if you think about this, if something like that alien that I just pulled up, where did I put that photo? If this thing popped up in front of everybody and they were like, "Oh, hey," granted this is just an AI depiction, but if something like that popped up, they'd say, "Well, you see, the Bible is wrong," because God only created
Bingo.
humans like us, and now look at this. This is very human.
Bingo.
And so it's a perfect deception.
It's the perfect deception. And I'll take it a step further. If imagine, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, if somehow there was a craft hovering over Boston, right? How many believers would keep their faith? How many believers would believe in Jesus and believe?
Well, I don't think it would bring anybody. You're saying would be brought to it by that?
No.
No, would still believe because of that.
You would question everything.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, wait a minute. If aliens are real and they've been here before, right? And they started this whole thing, well, then does God exist, or was it them?
Yeah.
Right? And so it would create in Christianity even a deception that was so great that millions of people would be drawn astray. The beauty of it is, though, is that millions and millions of people would come to Christ because the rise of this interdimensional being called the Antichrist, I do believe that he's going to be possessed, obviously. He's the devil. That he's going to enslave people to a point where they're going to turn to Christ in droves. And so, in the end, do aliens exist?
No.
No, they don't. No matter what footage you see, no matter what stories you hear, right? It's not aliens. They're interdimensional beings. Remember, fallen angels were here before.
Yeah.
Still here.
Yeah. These things are, basically in their world, when you think of something that is that vast, talking about another dimension, heaven and hell, that sort of thing. What they're doing is like, did you ever see Looper?
Yes.
Where the things that float the coins?
Yeah.
That's basically what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they're floating coins in their hand. TKs, isn't that what they call them? The telekinetics.
The funny thing about this is that the same, we've been talking about this on this show for so long. I feel like a broken record, but this zebra hasn't changed his stripes.
Yeah.
That, the same demons that existed in Samaria 4,000 years ago that people worshiped are still here. They don't die. It's not like things have changed because these things went away. They decided to go somewhere. They don't die. They're infinite, just like God is, just like Christ is, just like we are created to be. I think that's the other, we're here in our human skin talking, but we're created forever.
Yeah.
There is no end at this point, right? Once God breathes life into you, you're here and you're part of it. Whether you want to be or not, you're going to be part of something. Whether that is something glorious,
right,
or something eternally not glorious
right.
at all, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be part of it. And so this deception is going to be so great and can be so great, and it already is so great that people believe that this is happening where, yeah, we've got craft, we've got aliens, we've got this, we've got that. And no, what we've got is a demonic entity, a presence. What we've got is Satan doing what Satan does best, and that is to deceive. The word says that he was a liar from the beginning. That's his native tongue. This is where he's the most comfortable, is in deception, in making things up, in making people believe things to be true that are not true. And what a glorious, shining lie this one would be, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that and pay close attention to this, the other thing that he does is, that old saying that, what is it? Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
The most sincere form of flattery,
Sure.
I think. Yeah, whatever.
Everything he does and will do is to try to be like God. Godlike. For example, we've got a temple to a false god on the Temple Mount where the true temple to Yahweh stood, right? Because this is his MO. Look what I've done, right? This idea of aliens, otherworldly things, would create worship, would it not? I mean, people would just bow down to this. Like, so it's all about being like God. It's all about manipulation, lies. I'm telling you, this fits.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and when I was going to segue with this to this one, when people start going to their spiritual leaders and, asking questions about
this is what they're getting.
this is the kind of trash that they're getting right now. And this is the Methodist Church, by the way, and why some people that I know separated from the Methodist Church.
Yes.
And went to the global church because of this sort of stuff. I like the circus
Becca
music.
Gorell, Clergy, New England Annual Conference, She, Her, Hers, Queer White Adult. I'm very sorry to do this.
Deacon, Greater New Jersey, adult white male.
Thank you, Bishop. Good morning, friends. Cisgendered white lay male delegate from the Great Plains Conference.
Go ahead.
Clergy delegate from Minnesota, white, female, gay, adult, with pronouns she and her.
White, male, straight, adult.
Clergy, black woman, white, adult, female.
African American, clergy woman, pronouns she, her.
White, non-binary person, and my pronouns are they, them.
She, her.
I am a Latinx, lay, young adult.
Cisgender male.
Non-binary, white. I'm 34. I'm very confused on if I'm an adult or young adult.
Yeah, because everybody at 34 feels that way. Am I an adult yet? Oh, my Lord.
And a person living with disability.
I think I agree with her. So,
Them, Bishop.
if you will pull out.
My pronouns are they, them. I think I forgot to.
Wow. This, I'm sorry, but this is, I sometimes I don't even know where to go with that.
Praise
to
the
be perfectly
Lord.
honest.
Praise the Lord. That's
These are people that are like with serious mental health problems. If you're saying you're a they them, you're dealing with something.
we just literally we are done on Facebook now. We're finished. Like,
Oh yeah.
but so I mean, you look at this and go, okay,
How are these people? But when they can't get their own life together, when someone says I'm 34 years old and don't know if I'm a young person or an adult, how is that person supposed to offer spiritual guidance, life advice?
Well, I mean, first of all, if she's still on screen, can we pull her back up? Just
Oh yeah, we can pull her back up. There you go.
anybody that's going to go to they them for spiritual advice is probably somebody that wouldn't receive true spiritual counsel to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't make them feel good. But
Well, no, I'd beg to differ. I think they would try to make them feel good. They wouldn't be honest with them because sometimes
that's what
being
I'm
honest-
saying.
Yeah. They're gonna tell them it's all fine.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is fine.
yeah, and I love the fact that she actually had the audacity to interrupt.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's a clown show, and this is why this church, the Methodist Church, is going away. It's going into the dustbin.
They're struggling. They're having all kinds of problems. The sad thing is the Methodist Church is also, winning people to Jesus. There's a lot of great clergy in the Methodist Church. There's a lot of great Christian people in the Methodist Church.
Yeah.
This is what gives that the black eye.
Yeah. Oh
Right?
yeah. It's the leadership that's doing this.
Yeah, and I do love. There are a few of them in there. The snippets of like you could tell.
They were uncomfortable.
Well, and the fact that they have to say it. I'm a black woman.
We're aware.
Like, and that's all she said. Like,
Right.
She's mad about it because
Yeah.
it's like, if you can't see who I am, look the other way. Like, but this is another aspect of society that if this is in the clergy, the leadership of a denomination, of a church,
Yeah.
And, imagine where else it is in the world, right? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in everything, especially in America. It's not everywhere in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but it's in America. I saw a video of somebody who went to one of the tribes in Africa, and I can't remember.
Oh,
I
know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Where they were talking about, having an alternative lifestyle.
Right.
And the tribes nobody could fathom this. Why? Like,
Mike Walsh, Matt Walsh.
Yeah, Matt Walsh.
Yeah, he did. What is a woman?
That's it. It was in what is a woman? That's exactly what it was.
Yep.
And you sit back and go, yeah, I get it. I mean,
well, and they even in the church, the church has grown the fastest, I believe. Part of what was the Methodist Church is in Africa. Like they are seeing absolutely exponential growth. It's like a huge revival going on down there. It's unbelievable. And I think that they went with the global. I think that's where that. Yeah. And so they're the largest portion of the global church. I could be completely wrong on that, but I'm almost certain that that's what I've heard.
Is your father? Is he?
Yeah, he's global.
Global Methodist.
Global Methodist. Okay. Yeah. So he was United Methodist, and he went Global Methodist.
Sure.
And now they've started. There are some churches that held on, and they are getting kind of cutthroat about things. And they had offered them initially had agreements with them that they could buy their church, and then they halted that and wouldn't let them. Said if you want to go global or you want to go independent, then we're not going to sell you the building. So you have to go find a whole new church. These people have been going to that church for could be 30 or 40 years.
500 years, yeah.
Yeah. And so, or 60 years or 70 years. So it kind of became a cutthroat deal, but you have to stick to the principles that, I mean, it's pretty clear how you're supposed to position yourself on those sorts of things.
Well,
and people
I think the hard thing is because it is hard. Do you want to accept an alternative lifestyle? Well, yeah, because I want to love the people, and I get where so many pastors and so many churches get a little bit off the rails with this because you don't feel loving, right? When you tell somebody that their chosen path isn't God's best for their life. However, when you read the word, it's God who says, I discipline those that I love. Well, that's basic. This is like 101, right?
Well, I think you can approach somebody though, as if they're in that questionable area, I guess we'll just call it that. I'm trying to think of how not to get banned. If they're in these questionable areas and having questions about those sorts of things, it's not doing the church any service when you cave to the world and allow that to come into it.
Yeah, right. It's the opposite.
Right. It's the opposite. And so that's the guidance, because everybody, I've heard this a million times from a million different people, that it's not that you don't love them. Of course you show them love.
Right.
But the fact is these things are not, and it's a burden. It's not part of the Christian faith. It doesn't fit neatly inside of the Christian faith. And it is a burden that people have to bear. Like everybody's got a burden, and maybe that's it. Maybe it has to do with your upbringing. Maybe it doesn't, but you have to make people aware of that.
Yeah.
And you can't say just because we need the dues, the membership dues or the donations, let's go ahead and just say that this stuff is okay, even though we know it's not. Maybe behind closed doors, we'll say we're kind of cutting some corners. Well, that's just not the way to do it. That sounds like I'm imposing some nefarious intent on them.
No, I don't think so at all. I think you're kind of hitting it on the head.
I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not saying that they're all doing that just for donations or whatever, but they're doing it because they have weakened their resolve, I guess would be the term, and willingness to stick to.
They're doing it
principles because they don't want to offend.
Because they don't want to offend, and because, truthfully, they're not following Christ. And when people go, "Oh, that's not true," the Bible doesn't say that, But these are the same people, by the way, that would say, "Well, the Bible, Jesus never said that you shouldn't, have that kind of an alternative lifestyle. Jesus never said that." Well, you're right. Jesus didn't say a lot of things because it was just known.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to say it, right? This is when
Well,
his...
he said one man, one woman.
Sure.
Right.
Yep. But he didn't have to say it because his father did.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the crux of it all, right? That, Jesus didn't talk about tithing. Well, no, his father did, though. Like, these are the things that you go, okay, wait a minute. Who's the authority here? They both are, right? And anything that Jesus said would back up what the Father said. Right? Because he said, I can only say what my Father tells me to say, right? Like, so.
But I think you're right in that it shows that they're not truly sticking to the Word of God, but at the same time, they're doing a disservice to that person.
Absolutely.
I think that is that. While it's a travesty, obviously, that this is somebody who's could be coming unknowingly into their faith, and they're being approached by someone who's not doing something that's in their best interest.
Right. Well, and I always say it. And here's the other thing: we have made this an issue, right? Where it's not any different than any other issue. I think this is the fun thing about this is that we'll get banned on Facebook. We'll call this hate speech. We'll do whatever, right? But if I say, yeah, living with your girlfriend, having sex outside of marriage, right? Not forgiving your father for what he did to you, it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
None of that's hate speech.
Yeah.
But this is, because that infringes on the way that I feel. Well, since when first of all, feelings don't stay the same. And I'll tell you, you can say this and back me up. We're married men.
Yeah.
Do I feel the same way about my wife today as I did on our wedding day?
I mean, yeah, you probably feel the same, but it's different. I mean,
it changes.
It changes over time.
Right?
Yeah.
You go through seasons.
Yeah. That was a loaded question.
Yeah, you shouldn't, because your wife listens. Shouldn't have asked that. But
no. I mean,
you go through seasons, the ups and downs, the ebb and flow, and there are times, it's when love becomes a choice, right? It's when marriage and commitment matter. When you sit back and go, you know what? There are days where it's like, it'd be so much easier if I was in a camper in the mountains, right? Me and the dog. Kids and wife, or, but this is my choice. This is my commitment. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to be a man. I'm going to do the uncomfortable thing because this is what's right, not what feels right.
Yeah.
Or rather, not what feels right now, because it's all right now. Feelings are always right now. And so when we base our life around our feelings, and this comes down to, man, we're going over.
Are we?
Yeah, we're going to totally go over. This comes down to everything: depression, anxiety, all of it. Things that we feel are never forever. They're always a temporary seasonal thing. And that season can be 15 years.
Sure, yeah.
But just because you're in a place doesn't mean you're going to stay there. And I think this is where so many people get caught up in this have surgeries to change who they are.
Yeah.
Only to want to, and that is statistically an overwhelming number, only want to go back eventually, right?
Sure.
Because I felt this way and now I don't feel this way anymore. Well, what did you think? You're basing your life not on truth, but on feelings, and feelings will lie to you.
Right.
So this is where we have to be careful. And in this capacity, nobody is going to speak the word to these people. They're not going to speak the truth of God. It's not about control. It's about, this is not God's best for your life.
Yeah.
And if you approach it that way with everything, you're living with your girlfriend, this isn't God's best for your life. What's God's best for your life? Unforgiving your father? Is that God's best for your life? You're going to carry that with you, or are you going to be free of it? Like all of it. It's all part of true Christianity.
Yeah. Well, it's the softening of our morals has gotten us to that point.
Absolutely.
And, caving to things that are mental health issues, which is what, like the Transformers and all that.
Yeah.
That's my slang word for anybody
Transformers.
that's recently come on.
I like it.
The Transformers. All that stuff is leaning into a mental health crisis. And you're doing it because normally you would have your moral foundation that would help you with that. But no, we lean into, I mean, we don't lean into depression. We don't lean into bipolarism. We don't lean into schizophrenia and say, you know what, you go be that. No, we help people through counseling, through medication.
Yeah, but
you know, all that
dysphoria is different, right? For some reason.
No, it's different because it's become cultural. And this is why I make the argument.
I think it's different because everybody that transitions is bank.
Oh, yeah, at least $1 million.
A person.
Yeah, I think $1.5 million.
Therefore, I think this is all a grand scheme of money grabbing. And it's now popular. And so more and more people will be like, popular. That's a terrible term for that, right? Because it's not popular, but the media and those people would make it seem popular.
Right.
So more and more kids are confused. And is this, you know, and of course they're pushing kids to transform.
Right.
Because if they can get them to transform, that lines their pocketbooks for forever. And so
lifelong patience.
It's just a constant, it just is a machine. It's a machine of confusion.
Well, and you're right. It's a machine of confusion, and it's easier to do now because we've lost our faith-based morals.
Absolutely,
our morals are and our morals, and now they're working on our rights. But our morals and our rights, all of these things, don't come from God because God's not a thing in their world. And so when they start setting the moral foundation for us, it's whatever as they've we can see now in society, the culture war is setting our morals, and they're constantly being changed. So now our morals become fluid, and it's easy. It makes it easier for people who don't believe in God, who don't believe their rights come from God, who get that these are bestowed on people by the federal government. Then you can mix and morph this stuff all you want, and very quickly, especially when you control the social media and things like that, anybody who dissents and who takes money out of the pockets of the good pharmaceutical companies is a bigot, is
call them names.
Call them names.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Conspiracy theorists because of ivermectin.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, but this is what we see over and over, right?
Yeah.
And then what's ironic about it is they're calling out people for doing the same thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. But because they have the money and the numbers or the popular face, right? They get to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a nobody.
Right.
Right.
Oh, it's easy to squash the nobodies.
Right.
It becomes harder to squash the big names, but boy, they're still making an effort.
Oh, buddy, are they ever?
They're going after it. I mean, Glenn Beck talked about his numbers dropping. I saw a video. Did you send me that video?
I might have, yeah.
Oh, dude, it was bad. Like he said that they got cut in half.
Yeah.
Now they've been cut in half again.
Yeah.
Watch us on Rumble. We've got quite a few people watching us on Rumble right now.
Yeah.
This is the place. Come see us here.
It's the only place.
It's the only free speech platform out there. This and X.
It's it. Yeah, and X. Yeah, but can you get the full thing on X, or is it just a certain amount of time?
You can live stream to X. I haven't set up our account to do that yet, but
because we're new.
It's coming in the near future.
Yeah, we're new. I would love to get rid of. I would love for us to just get off Facebook altogether and just. In fact, I'm going to encourage everybody listening. Like, let's just all stop using it.
It's a terrible platform.
Well, it is now. Especially the only thing good about it is Marketplace.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's it. And now Craigslist is gone. I mean, basically, Craigslist, you go on there and it's like, look for a trailer, and it's like, oh, this is 6 months ago. You know, like
right. It's dead. Yeah, that platform is dead.
Anyway, okay.
Man, we had a couple things we didn't get to. We were going to listen to Russell Brand and hear about the genetically modified mosquitoes, and man.
I actually did a lot of looking into that. We're going to have to touch on it next week because this is a legitimate thing. It is not okay. And the fact that nobody voted for this, right?
Voted for
genetically modified mosquitoes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we don't need to vote on it. Bill Gates got our best interest at heart.
This is insane. This is criminal.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
This is criminal.
Yeah.
They're modifying everything.
Yeah.
And who's calling the shots with this? But we need to talk about that again next week. Somebody did ask me last week.
Alex Soros, I believe.
Somebody did ask me last week, and we're at 10:05. Did they sacrifice the red heifers?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Did they?
The answer is I don't know either. Nobody knows. Nobody seems to be able to find that out. So, and nobody, I've looked, I don't know where they are. and nobody seems to know where they are. So I am gonna take a deeper dive. If you do know if they sacrificed the red heifers,
leave a comment.
Leave a comment, please. And if you've enjoyed tonight's episode, please pay it forward. Tell your friends, tell your family, because
every Wednesday.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Most Wednesdays.
Most Wednesdays. Occasionally, I'm traveling. I was in Texas last week.
Yeah. And of course, there's the occasional, whatever other night.
Right. Yeah.
But we try to keep this on Wednesday nights and try to, it's almost our small group.
Yeah.
Very small group.
Yeah.
But we just enjoy it. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Till next week, keep your eyes on the prize, which lies in the skies.
Oh,
look at that! I'm
poet didn't know it.
Longfellow over here. So braver than the rest. If you have questions, comments, braverthantheRest@gmail.com. The braver than the rest @gmail.com.
Or leave it in the video.
Have a great night.